Good morning and welcome to this weekly market update from MRC Markets. Today is the 1st of November 2013. What we'll do today is go through some technical analysis on Euro dollar, cable, dollar Swiss, Aussie dollar, dollar CAD and gold. Just going to review what's been going on in the markets this week. It's been a very interesting week, and yeah, just give some sort of outlook for next week as well, and just go through any of the key setups that I think are in play, and hopefully they'll be of some use to you. If anyone follows out there, we have 3 moving averages on each of these charts. The red one's a 50 simple moving average, the purple is a 100 simple moving average, and the gold is a 200 simple. We'll not make any trade calls recommendations in this video. You trade at your own risk. If you could please read a full disclaimer on our website www.mrcmarkets.com. Okay, then let's have a look at the Euro dollar weekly chart. It's interesting actually. Let's have a quickly look at the monthly, because obviously today is the start of a new month, so the monthly candles closed yesterday, so let's have a quick look at them. Euro dollar is quite an interesting one, quite a bit of upper wick on that, because we've obviously been grinding higher for a long time, and you can see this week it's just really been selling off. There was some weak Eurozone data yesterday, some weak the CPI was lower than expected, and there was some chatter out about reducing the interest rates and etc, etc. So that has caused the euro to sell off. I mean, it has been a decent uptrend, so it has been, it's just, some will say it's just a retracement. You can see now we're pressing into the 50-day moving average here on euro. And what is interesting, we've spoke about this fib multiple times. This was a lovely fib, very technical, nice uptrend down into the 50% retrace, and then it ripped higher. And then if we take that low of that fib, this is the daily chart, of course, and then bring it to the high, you can see it looks like it wants to come back down here. And of course we have previous support around this area, around this sort of 1.3468 as well, so that could be a really interesting buying zone. But of course it needs to get below this 50-day moving average for that to happen. So yeah, it really has just been selling off this week euro. If you look at the 4-hour chart, just, I mean, this whole drop, there hasn't really been any sort of bounces either. The sellers have just been capping every sort of mini rally. Just look at the 15-minute chart. Yeah, just very very heavy indeed, very quick sell-off. Of course, the famous quote is go up the stairs and come down via the elevator, and that has been very true on this euro chart. So that's all. This is the main setup I'm really focused on, to be honest. And you have got the big, the obvious levels as well, which I mean, for any sort of mini bounces, these are going to be the levels, to be honest with you, that I think. So currently we've got the 1.35s, and then the sort of 1.3550s as well. So these are sort of big option expiry levels. They're always key to look out for. And the other one I'd keep on here would be, as we're currently now, the 1.3450s. So they're the 3 levels. If you're looking at sort of intraday stuff, sort of 4-hour chart there, it's an interesting one. So the 4-hour, we've had the previous 2 candles are closed above, so it'll be interesting this candle close on the euro. And one other thing to talk about actually, so I should clear that up. One other fib is this one here. This is on the weekly chart, so we've just gone back to the weekly here, and this setup got taken out. Lovely, off this sort of 50% and 61.8% range. This is why we use these 2 levels on these videos. It's nice, a sort of healthy retracement range here. We rotated higher. I mean, funny enough, we closed last week's weekly candle closed above this 0.0%. So this level you thought would have been some sort of support, sort of 1.3709s. But of course, if it does rally today, it could close. If we do close above here, then it's still very bullish. So the weekly close will be very interesting. Of course, the odds are that it's not going to close above that level, but if it does, that's very interesting. So keep an eye out if we do get any sort of late rally here in the euro. And of course, this is the other setup. So from these highs here to the lows, the 61.8 sellers are starting to come in, and this weekly candle is looking very heavy. I personally want it to close below the 50% if I was a long-term bear. and then if it does, then the odds are they will come down and take out these 120s. But yeah, that's pretty much it on the euro. So we've done that, the weekly chart, the daily chart, and the 4 hours the same setup. So we'll just draw that setup again on the daily. So you've got this one here, this fib here, that dip there, and then if you flip it to the 4 hour, it's pretty much the low of the 4 hour chart there, depending on how big your screen is. But that's the clear dip there, I think, and you've got some interesting supports around here. Okay, let's flip it to cable. Cable's quite an interesting chart. We've obviously had these very nice, this is the daily chart here, it's a lovely dip there that came up, next one there. The next one, which is still in play, let me draw the fib, is this one here. It looks like it wants to come down, I think, but this level is holding here, so the sort of 1.5943s. But of course it's getting held up by the 50-day moving average as well, so it's a tricky one. It's in the sort of no man land really. It's in between this big level. I mean, a lot of people will be looking at this smaller fib from here, that smaller one there, but I'm not really massively interested in that, to be honest. So let's just go back to the weekly, because we would like to start in a bigger time frames and come back out. Last week's weekly candle was a sort of reversal there, a doji but with a decent upper wick. So this week's candle has done exactly what it's meant to do really, and sell off. And yeah, to be honest, it's still, I mean, you'd see a lovely resistance level up here on this weekly, 1.6170, 1.6167, lovely resistance, capped it, and it's now, well, in terms of this weekly, it's currently chopping in between this level. You can see that as well on the daily. But it looks like it's forming a big double top here. You can see we've had two big clear peaks there. It looks like it's going to come down and test this support, in my opinion, unless this 50-day moving average wants to hold. But you have to remember, we're a long way away from the 100-day and 200-day moving averages as well. So I'd have thought it'd come down, test these lows and break them, to be honest with you, and come down to a healthier sort of retracement. But that's the focus really on the cable, even on the 4 hour chart as well. Like with the euro, it's been very heavy this week as well. Sellers cap it. This 50 bar moving average has been quite nice on this 1 hour chart as well. See, it capped it around here. We had a false breakout there, but it's capped it in these previous two peaks there. Okay, let's go to the dollar Swiss. Dollar Swiss has been an interesting chart. It's all about just selling the rallies really on this dollar Swiss daily. We of course had this, I know it wasn't, that was a 38.2, it sold off there. So the next dip, a lot of people will be looking at this one here, which is breaking above and currently testing the 50-day moving average. This is the current one I'm keeping an eye out on dollar Swiss, because you can see the 50% level has previous resistance at it as well. So the sort of double confluence resistance level there if we do get up. And you have to remember, look at last week's weekly candle, quite bearish as well. But it has been due a bit of a retracement on this dollar Swiss, and that's what we've had this week. So odds are I'd keep on grinding higher, I think. But it has to, of course, the daily candle has to keep on closing above this 50-day moving average for it to get higher. Let's go back to the daily. Buyers wanted to buy the dips. We'll be looking at this fib here. So from these lows here to the highs, previous support around here as well, the 50% retracement. And that's pretty much it on the dollar Swiss, to be honest with you. Aussie dollar, very interesting fib setup is this one here, from pretty much the yearly highs to the lows there, bam, right into the 50%. Lovely reversal candle there, and it really has just sold off all week here. And in terms of, yeah, and even that's on the weekly, you can see it much clearer as well. Really key fib, last week's weekly candle, nice reversal, and this week we have just sold off. So that's what it's all about on the Aussie. The buyers will of course be looking to come in at the reverse fib here, so from the lows to those highs. And funny enough, we also have previous support there as well, at that 50%. So keep an eye on that. That's really all I'm focused on the Aussie dollar. It's really just been selling off all week, but it's all about those big two fibs on the daily chart. So the big sell fib and the big buy fib. Dollar CAD still is sort of chopping around really. This is the daily chart. Don't know what's come up with the channel there. So I'm just going to delete that. I accidentally clicked on channel, but it's used the trend line, as that's what we're really focused on here. So just change the colour quickly. So yeah, trendline support, it's still holding on dollar CAD, but this week it has been quite heavy. Yesterday we had some Canadian GDP, much better than expected, and that saw the Canadian dollar get a decent bid yesterday, and we're starting to come down. So the odds are that it looks like it wants to come back down here and perhaps test this trendline support. Any of the fib players almost probably be looking at this fib here. If you flip it to the 4-hour chart there. But you have to keep an eye out here, because on the 4-hour chart we have this 50 SMA holding. So, I mean, if it's going to get down to this 50%, then it has to get a 4-hour close below that. That's quite an interesting one, especially when if you look at it on the 1-hour chart. I personally quite like the fibs where it's sort of if you flip to that chart, it's the whole chart. So from the low of the chart to the high, it's an obvious swing low to an obvious swing high. So a lot of people would be looking at that, I'd have thought. So I think it will come down to this 50%, and it will be interesting to see what sort of reaction we do get at this level. But that's the pure focus on the dollar CAD really. Interesting enough, actually, this week's weekly candles looking quite heavy as well. So it could sort of close at these sort of levels, and next week it could rally back. It could come back down, forming a lower wick, and then reverse higher. So yeah, keep an eye on that. It's quite an interesting one on the dollar CAD. But of course, you have to keep in mind that trend line as well. So do you really want to be buying at sort of no man's land technically around here when you've got big much stronger supports around here as well? And also you have to remember multiple tests of trend lines, they tend to get broken much more easily the more tests they get. Imagine it as a sort of a floor. The more times you stamp on it, the more chance it's got of breaking. So yeah, keep an eye on that. But quite an interesting chart. That would be interesting. I mean, if we get a really decent 1-hour reversal at the 50% in, there's no reason why it wouldn't rotate higher. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see that. That's the forex done. Let's have a look at gold. The weekly's not that interesting, to be honest. The daily is still quite an interesting chart. You have this fib here. We bounced off that 50%, came back down. Buyers start to come in at these supports here around the 1271, rotated higher, got above this 50%, and now it's just sort of floating around really. If you flip it to the 4-hour, sorry, let's just go back to this daily. In terms of this daily, it looks like it just wants to come back down to this 50%, and then it'd be interesting to see what sort of action we do get here. But I think if we flip this fib around here, yeah, if we flip it from those highs there to the lows, then we've got the sellers coming in and front running these 61.8s, which coincides with 1350s as well. Key resistance there, and it really has just been selling off. So really, I'd have thought that would continue to sell off over the next sort of week read, obviously depending on what the weekly candle looks like. But it's currently looking very heavy indeed. So if we close at lows, then I wouldn't be surprised to see these 1250 lows get taken out. But of course, buyers will be most probably be coming in at that level, because that's a key support at those 1250s. And in terms of the 4-hour, I would have thought a lot of people would be looking at this fib here on this 4 axis. It's quite a solid uptrend, nice retracement. So I'm surprised to see what happens here at the 50%, these sort of 1305s. But I think it's a low odds play fib really, especially when that bigger one, this big one here that we just spoke about, it's still well in play. And bearing in mind that weekly candle as well, if it closes at the lows, they'd be very brave to be buying the gold. But no, quite an interesting chart. That's some interesting fibs going on there, and some fairly decent price action. Okay, then that's all for today in terms of the charts. Quite a quiet news day today. There's no NFP. I think that's next week. We'll have to check that one. In next week's video, we'll go through the Forex calendar. Hope you found that video useful. Have a great rest of the week trading, and I'll catch you next week. Thanks for watching.